Welcome back to We Die Like Men. I'm Mike again, and today's video I wanted to talk about a topic that is a little more serious, but not like completely serious, not like sad serious or anything like that. I want to talk about being a dad. I have two kids. I have a daughter who's 16 and a son who's 19. Um, I went a long time in my life, up until my early 20s, not thinking I ever really wanted kids. I went through a spell where I was like, I don't think I'll ever even get married. In my like 18, 19, 20 year old me was like, I don't want to get married. What do I want to do that for? Um, I did end up getting married fairly young. Um, that marriage didn't last super long. Um, the marriage lasted a little over a year. We split, but a year later we were divorced. Total time between dating and marriage was about 6 years, something like that. Not quite, I guess, but right in that general area. Kind of dated off and on a little bit there, but and then I was like, well, I don't know. At that point in time, now I was in my mid 20s. I was like, I don't know if I'll ever get married again. It sucked. It wasn't my decision to get divorced. Got my fan going, so if you see my shirt blowing, that's why. It's still 70 something degrees out today. I just wasn't sure. And then I met my wife, Amy. Those of you who have come to this channel from her channel, She Bangles, will know what I'm talking about. Again, I didn't change my camera settings, did I again? Oh well, whatever. I got to get this fixed. I got to figure out my filming setup and shit. We started dating. I was still married to my first wife, but I knew it was ending. Um, had been separated for, geez, 9 months, something like that, 10 months, and the marriage had been going downhill longer than that. So, but anyways, we we started dating. After a while, the discussion come up about kids. She knew she wanted kids. I'm like, I don't know what I want yet. Then as I got older and I started getting 29, years had gone by. We got engaged, things like that. I was like, okay, yeah, I want kids. I want to be a dad before I'm too old. I had friends and people I worked with that had kids late 30s to mid 40s. I worked with a guy whose son was born when he was 45. Uh, and Raymond was like, it's hard at 45. His girlfriend was right around his age too. I think they ended up getting married. Yeah, pretty sure they did. They may have been married before he was born. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago now. So I didn't want to be that dad that was, raising kids when I was 60. You know, I will be 50 in 3 months, a little over 3 months. Um, so it was one of those things. We were engaged. We were planning our wedding. We knew yeah, we're gonna have kids. It was summer of 2006, and we had been engaged. We got engaged in April, but was it April of '06 or April of '05? She'll kill me, but I don't remember exactly which year we got engaged now. Anyways, um, and we were down to that point of the wedding. We knew it was like June of '07. We were getting married. We were picking out final destinations. Not quite like that. Final, like, where we were going to have the reception. We knew we were getting married at a church. We were doing this. Where we were going to have the reception, catering. Trying to stick within a budget, realizing just how expensive these things can be. Um, my birthday is towards the end of August, middle of August. She wasn't feeling well. Things were a little odd. We went to the doctors, and she's like, I probably ought to get checked, see if I'm pregnant. Things were kind of weird like that, real emotional, just weird things. So, got home a half hour after we got home from that. They called, said, "Yep, you're about 2 to 3 weeks pregnant." Great. Wasn't planning it that way. Wasn't our intention. Um, Went and saw her doctor a week later. They estimated end of April. She's like, we talked. She's like, I want time to lose some weight after the baby, so we pushed our wedding date back to August from June. Okay, not a big deal. Um, our son was born at the end of April, so they were pretty close on the date. I think it was 2 days that they were off of their kind of estimate. Although he was born 2 days past his due date, but her due date. So at that point, life changed. When I found out she was pregnant, life changed. I grew up quick. And I was mature, but I was still spending money I shouldn't have been spending in ways I shouldn't have been spending it probably, and not putting as much thought into the future. We didn't have a house, things like that. We were saving towards a house, but not as well as we should. So, August, we find out she's pregnant. We bought a house in early February. Well, we bought it in January, but the closing was early February. In that amount of time, now I made good money, and she was making decent, okay money. Um, in that amount of time, I put $10,000 away towards buying a house. Um, we qualified for first-time home buyers, and we bought a condo because in our area, 2006, 2007, the housing market had jumped up. Nothing compared to today, but things were just expensive. We were nervous, and we could have bought a bigger house, but I'm looking at the monthly payment. I've never had a monthly payment that big on anything in my life, including rent and car payment combined. Were never that big. Um, Had a good, realtor, had a good mortgage broker. His dad and my dad had worked together at the fire department, so he sat us down. I was like, "You can afford this. You really can." But we decided to go cheaper. Kind of regret it, but it was what it was. Um, and it matured me. It also what kind of brought on the PTSD. I won't lie. I have been retired from from work. I was a firefighter and medic. I worked as a mechanic. I worked as a lot of things, but firefighter and EMS. I couldn't save a 5-year-old little boy. I didn't get to him in time. He died before I could reach him. That's a long story, very very short. Hurt. It bothered me. I was in my earlier 20s, very early 20s when that happened. I was like 21, I think, something like that. Sucked. I felt bad. A few weeks went by. I started feeling better. I'm like, okay, I'm over it. Not knowing how much a parent loves a child until you have one. You think you know true love. When a child is born, your child, that's when you learn true love. Sometimes it takes a little bit. I'll get into that. But I was petrified when we found out she was pregnant that she was going to lose the baby because of my screw up, that God, the universe, whatever, was going to pay back for my failure. The anxiety got so bad. God, I was in and out of cardiac units. They thought it was my heart. And finally, they realized, hey, maybe go see the psychiatrist. And we figured it out. Years later, I ended up, after my daughter was born, I ended up having to get done work. It just got so much. So, a while after she was born, but I wouldn't change any of it. Nothing. Not my time as a firefighter or medic, not my kids being born. I would not change a thing. Even knowing what I know now, wouldn't change it. I might change what I do to try to help prevent the PTSD getting so bad. I might have sought help back when that incident happened. But having to tell a mother and a sister and a father that I'm sorry, he's gone. We can't get to him. Um, when you hear the screams in the night in your sleep, it's rough. I've come to terms with some of it. I say that no, I'm not better like that, but I'm not cured. Let's put it that way. Anyhow, um, fast forward to him being born, and it was like scary. What do I do? I, I have niece and a couple of nephews. I have three older sisters. Each one of them has a kid. I have a niece and nephew that are both. I had two sisters that were pregnant at the same time, approximately. They're 10 years older than my son. They were born in like '97. He was born in '07. I have another nephew that's quite a bit older, but I wasn't around him when he was growing up. Long story. He lived. My sister was very young when she had him. He lived with other people. He was adopted, I guess is the best way to put that. He was put up for adoption and didn't reconnect until many years later. Great kid. I love my nephew very much. Both my nephews and my niece. I think the world of them. You know, like all young adults, there's times when you want to kind of. My nephew that's was born in '97. There's times you kind of want to slap him upside the head, but he's also got a really good head on his shoulders and he's a smart kid. Just sometimes he does dumb things. My niece, no, she's fine. Her mother, I'd like to slap sometimes, but and my other nephew is quite a bit older and he does fine. He does his thing. He's a hot shit. He's actually only like 10 years younger than I am, something like that, and she's only 8 years older than I am. So yeah. Anyhow, his mother, that is that sister. Um, it was scary. It was tough. The only thing that got me through it is having a wife that is not only ungodly amazing at being a wife and just a good human being, but is an exceptionally good mother. We made mistakes. We screwed up. Uh, we dropped him a couple of times. She did. I had him in my arms like this. He was little. I'm walking into his nursery to put him in. He'd fallen asleep, and she said something to me. I turned around, I hear a clunk. I bumped his head off the door frame. I don't even know if he woke up on that. She stepped back, didn't realize he had rolled, and stepped on his arm, thought she broke his arm. He was so little. We called the doctor, and they're like, at this age, it's almost impossible to break their bone. As a medic, the doctor talked to me a few things I did. He says, he's not even crying. He goes, you didn't break his arm then? I'm like, well, I didn't think so, but you know, we had an amazing pediatrician, Dr. Brewster. If you ever see this, thank God for you. He was the type that he'd check James out, make sure he was good, buckle him in his car seat, set aside, turn and look at the two of us. So how are you doing? You taking time off? He's spending the night with Grammy and Grandpa once in a while, so you guys can go to dinner, go have a date night, get sleep. You know, he was great. He was an older gentleman. He's retired now. But matter of fact, at one time I had seen him as a child when I lived in this area. So, great guy. But you know, we screwed up. We made mistakes. But Amy was my rock. My PTSD was spiking. New baby, new house. She was the one that would be like, "Hey, we'll get through it. We always have. We always will." And if it wasn't for her, I don't know how any of it. Well, it wasn't for her. I wouldn't have kids. But I mean, if she wasn't as amazing as she is, I would never. It never would have worked. You know, like all wives and significant others, she can be a pain in the butt, and the indecisiveness sometimes of women. You know, where do you want to eat? I don't care. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. But that aside, she's amazing. She is what keeps the family going, 100%. I do a lot, I think, but nowhere's near enough ever. So we got through it. And as he got older and he started building that personality, the love for him grew more and more and more. That first month or two, I was like, I love him, but there wasn't this like amazing bond. Buddy of mine had told me about that. He was a fair amount older than me. His kids were quite a bit older, and he says, "Don't be surprised if the first couple of months there isn't that like, boom, huge connection. You know, you're worried about your wife, you're worried about everything." He said, "One of those days, it'll just click," and it did. It was just one of those moments where he looked at me and I looked at him, and it was like, boom, heart melted, done, gone. Um, you know, and that's when I realized true love. You know, my child. There's nothing you know, you think you really love somebody and you find out that your spouse has been cheating on you with your best friend for the past however many years, and pretty soon that love's gone and you despise them. You know, you have family members that you love, but they go out and do whatever, and pretty soon you still love them, but I could find out my kid was an axe murderer and I would still love him just as much. I would be disappointed and devastated, but my love for him wouldn't change. You know? Uh, you know, it would be devastating because, well, you know, he's going to go to prison, but um, I don't think he is an axe murderer, let me put it that way. I've seen him swing an axe, and Yeah, you're probably safe. He does all right, but you know, one of those things. He's good at a lot of things. Chopping wood, just not his. He's getting better. Let's put it that way. My daughter, on the other hand, she's one head injury away from being the Doctor Evil in the Hollowed Out Volcano with the sharks with laser beams on their head. She's absolutely brilliant, and I worry that that like I said, that wrong head injury, and she could. I don't think she ever would. She's quite a lovable type and loving type person, but she is scary, brilliant. Sometimes makes you wonder. Um, but like I said, then my daughter comes along, and that's a whole different thing. We had James, and because the PTSD was so bad, I really didn't know if I wanted another child. Amy really wanted one. I did want one, but then I didn't, and then I did, and then I didn't, and then she gets pregnant. She happened to get pregnant when I was kind of at that point where I'm like, I don't know if I want another kid. I'm like, okay, well, find out it's a girl. I'm terrified. I have three older sisters. I watched what my father went through. Um, you know, I have a lot of female cousins. I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with this. But she was daddy's little girl. She had me wrapped right around her finger. Still does. So, um, I was gonna wear the T-shirt that I have for her, but I couldn't find it. And it says rules for dating my daughter. Number one, you can't. Yeah, I told her when she's 35, she can, she can go out on a date, supervised, but go out on a date. No, she's not big into that. She's very focused on school and the extracurricular activities and everything like that. She's very driven and focused on her college career. Hopefully, U.S. Air Force Academy. That's her thing. And she knows she's got time later on for relationships. She's dated a little here and there, kind of the middle school and early high school stuff, whatever. But as soon as the boys got too serious, she's like, "Yeah, get the hell out." Fine by me. I'm not going to hear me complain. Now that they're at these ages, my son's an adult. Him and his girlfriend live here, just because there's no point in them wasting all their money to try to have an apartment that they couldn't afford anyways. Even though he makes really good money, and she's working, she makes money, um, and they're doing their best. They're young. They're 19. Both of them just turned 19. They've been together 4 years. You know, they are doing everything that a young couple should be doing. Like all of us, they're spending more money on stupid stuff than what they should be. They're not thinking about the future as much. How many of us thought about the future at 19? Um, like that. Him and my daughter are very different when it comes to that stuff. She's future focused, driven. He's more like, hey, look, the sun came up today. Cool. Um, I don't know what I'm doing. I gotta work. Anyone want to go fishing, hunting? I'm gonna work on my truck because I want to do something cool to it. Okay, whatever. I'm seeing a little bit of that get better and better, and it will. So the joy that I have now with them, because I can, especially with him, he's an adult. Um, the day he turned 18, I slapped him back of the head. Boom, cuffed him. Not hard, cuffed him. What the hell was that for? I said, that was for all the times that you pissed me off and I couldn't do it because it would have been child abuse. Now you're 18, you're a legal adult, and I didn't hit him hard, but hard enough to kind of that. If you ever watched NCIS, how Gibbs would do that to Denozo or whatever, it was that kind of thing. And he just chuckled, and he's like, okay, I guess I deserve that. I said, you probably deserve more than one. He's like, yeah, probably. Um, but again, it was just, for the fun of it. But now we can do things. We can have conversations about stuff. We can talk about all kinds of different things. And while I'm still his father and I still expect that level of respect as a father, I also want that friendship a bit with him too. That while we had, it's at a different level now. I'm more here to offer advice than orders and direction like that. You're going to do this, go do that. It's more, hey, you probably really ought to think about doing this, and this is why. It's your decision, but And that's taken a little burden off, but not completely. He works nights. I really get nervous on him driving home at midnight. Drunks are on the road, weather's bad in the winter, whatever the case may be. He's tired and falls asleep, whatever. I'm always worried, always going to. Um, but I think the biggest thing was that I went from not wanting to be a father to now can't imagine not being. While it is one of the, if not the, probably the most important decision you'll ever make, the consequences of it a lifetime. It's not just 18 years. If at the end of 18 years and your kid turns 18 and they're off on their own, you go, okay, that's it, I don't love them anymore, and turn and go do your life, you never should have been a parent, in my opinion. I envy those parents, like, all right, they're 18 now, I don't really have to worry anymore. And they love their kid and they're there for them, but they really don't worry. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I can't. Maybe it's the PTSD. Maybe it's just me. Um, Having kids is great. It's expensive. It's not as expensive as I thought, and in some ways it saves you money because we're not out. We weren't out partying and hitting the clubs and stuff like that. Not that we did that a ton, but we did some. And it just made us smarten up and be more financially responsible and just more responsible in our lives. My wife's 5 years younger than me, so I found out I was going to be a dad a few weeks before I turned 30. Great. He was born in April. I turned 31 that August. Amy, was at 5 years younger, so she turned, 25 right after we found out she was pregnant, 26 after he was born. A little bit after my birthday is hers. So it was just, it's a great, it's a great experience. And if you find the right person to do it with and you're in the right mindset, I would recommend it when you're old enough. For those of you who are younger, if you say I got to wait until I have enough money to do it all, you'll never do anything in life. Um, you got to be financially okay, and you probably are more financially okay than you realize when you put your priorities in that direction. So, just a quick one, but I'll expand on this in other videos probably. But I have an award ceremony tonight for my daughter at the high school for honor roll and another award, but they won't tell her what it is. So, and then her promotion in Civil Air Patrol Thursday. So, I got things to do. I got to shit, shower, and shave. Hopefully, I got clean clothes. Find something. Talk to you later. Behave if you can. See ya.